Thanks everyone for coming back and being here with us today. We have a lot to cover tonight. So I'm going to let City Manager take over and start us on the agenda.
Okay. Councilman Lesser sent a note that he had a prior engagement and is not going to be able to be here tonight. So without him, but we'll catch him up later. He can watch our video recording. Tonight we are primarily focused on stations tonight and the equipment that goes into them, and then also what it takes to outfit a firefighter and a little bit of that. So if you look at the agenda, that you're right, there is a lot, but I think we can get through it tonight, and so we can be done by 8 o'clock. So tonight we're going to start with a presentation by Chief Duke that outlines the fire station coverage and the standard of response of about 5.5 minutes in order to get to a scene based on the travel time from the fire station. And so we have some maps that were produced by the use of GIS that allows us to be able to show you in a very graphical form what the each station can cover in that 5.5 minute time. So Chief, I'm going to turn it over to you to get started and get through these slides. There's not a lot of them, but go ahead.
Thank you, City Manager. What we have done, we've sat down and we've had personnel work with GIS through the city to give us a picture of our response capabilities within the city, particularly in 4 areas that we do have lack of total coverage. The NFPA standard that you see up on here, the golden time is 240 seconds or 4 minutes, but what we are shooting for is for a equal coverage throughout the city of 5 minutes and 30 seconds. This is something that we've set as a goal. 90% of the time we would get on the scene at least in 5 minutes and 30 seconds, as by NFPA 1710 standards. Go ahead there, Taylor. Next slide, please. So the station location analysis, we're looking at normal traffic time. That's the time that leaving the station to get to the call. So like it was said, Mr. Trite said that we use City GIS to look at these current street maps that we will have showing you the type of coverage. Taylor, please. So this is the current coverage for the city. You'll see the station locations. This is our 5 minute and 30-second response capability in the city. The city boundaries are this yellow line that you see going around here. So if you're wondering where we're at, basically this is the city boundaries, the yellow line going around. You'll see a couple of red circles in certain areas. This is where we don't have that 5 minute and 30-second coverage. That's due to the fact that the station locations don't perfectly meet that, where we have to look at definitely reallocation of our equipment. You'll see that the northwest and the northeast particularly have those areas that we cannot make in that given time. So we are looking at, and I use the caveat on this, this is not doing one at a time. We would need to relocate station in North Topeka Boulevard, and then also one over here on the northwest side and around the 6th Street area to make sure that we are able to fill those gaps. At the bottom of the page of the last paragraph, it talks about Mars and the Walmart Distribution Center. The map does not show you them on here because there wasn't enough room on the slide to pick up the map to show you those 2 areas in particular. Next, Taylor, please. So looking at this right now, and as I say, this would take us basically building both stations and simultaneously to be able, if we just do one at a time, it's not going to help us. So if we move Station 1 up on the Topeka, north on Topeka Boulevard to an area, you can see that we are able to cover that particular area where we weren't be able to be from its current location. And then moving Station 11's from where it is over here to this area in 6th Street, the property we currently own, you can see that we fill all those gaps that we have missed with their current locations. So the northwest would be covered in the 5 minute and 30 second, and then also the northeast area up to Lucan North on Topeka Boulevard towards further up north Topeka. We could cover that and still maintain the 5 minutes and 30 seconds throughout the city, just with that particular movement of stations. Now, there is a little area in North Oakland right here over by Billard Airport. You can see that there would be another suggestion on that to help us cover that. Since 2017, we have had approximately 140 responses to that particular area since 2017 from the fire department. That's both fire and EMS calls. So that is our major proposal to try to make sure that we are given coverages in those areas in the northwest and the northeast part of the city from these stations relocation. Next, please, Taylor. So this is all travel time. So the proposed location is, these are for reference only. So you can see, now I'm sure Mr. Sullivan can see his street. I know it's small on this, but the location of his street, it's not in the 530. It's probably in the 530 and 34 second mark. It's just we put 530 as the cutoff. So anything that goes over 5 minutes and 30 seconds, you know, there's one little area where he resides on his street that we would make up basically in 5 minutes 34, 5 minutes 35 seconds. So that's the original station location, and this moving it up to North Topeka Boulevard would give us better coverage in this area as a whole, with the caveat too that there are other stations. If Station 1 is out on a call, like Station 3's can come into that area, and we'll pull in Station 6 in one moment. Taylor, please. Here's the western location with the 5 minute and 30 second response capabilities from that area. It has filled everything in that we were lacking before. It would actually take a load off Station 7 having to respond in this area, because this station wasn't there before, to let them better serve the area that they cover. Please, Taylor, next one. So Station 6, I mentioned that's in the Oakland area. This is the current location for Station 6. This would be the second phase of the proposal, would be to move Station 6 down the road to, I think it's about Golden area. And it would be able to not only meet its 5 minute and 30 second response throughout the city district that it's in, but also that area that I said that there was 143 calls between 2017 and 2020, it would have been able to cover that area in the 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And also have an expanded, better response down to the south area as well. Currently now, it cannot meet that 5 minute and 30 seconds from its current location. But just moving it up the road to there's empty property up in and around that area, it could make that response time as planned. And the other reasons by building these stations, these current stations right now, 1937 for Station 6. Station 1 was 1940. Sorry, Station 1 was 1940. They're small. They're not adaptive to the equipment we have now. If we built other locations, we could run alternative vehicles out of those locations as well, particularly for taking those calls that we don't want to send a fire truck on, but we do need to have a response to get medical assistance to those locations. That would really help us in these locations. Like I say, these stations are not adaptive to current business that we're doing right now. And so we could make these into like what's going on right now with the Evergy issue. We could have generators in these stations, and then they'd be heating areas for people that live in the community. As they are built, they'll be more modern, both for the community and for the firefighters that are working in these stations. And these facilities here could be turned into community centers if someone so desired. Next one, please, Taylor. This is the last proposal. This is like a three-spear proposal, looking at 1s and 11s both being built at once in their new locations to better protect the area that they serve. Station 6 being moved slightly to the east to help better protect that location in Oakland area, up near the Billard Airport. And we did not have it in our map earlier, was the Mars, Target, Bimbo, and also the new proposed Walmart center that they are building. If we took Station 10 and moved it down closer to 470, it could make the 5-minute and 30-second into that area near the airport, near the speedway, and near those large companies that reside down in those areas. Taylor, please. Okay, that ends the slide. That basically ends the slideshow. So what I'm going to have is Chief of Operations Ty Christian will be able to talk about what the current conditions of the stations are that make this decision easier for us to recommend building stations that are more appropriate for what we're doing nowadays, in particular in those areas. Ty?
You just want to go over 1s, 11s,
And 10.
Sandra? I would just like to say something if I could, real quick.
Go ahead.
Well, on the charts there, the maps that you showed, you already have Station 11 down on Southwest 6th Street. Am I correct?
That would be correct. That would be the location. We have property there ready to utilize to build that station. I consider the fact that since 1978, these proposals have been repeatedly made to try to make the coverage equal throughout the city. And now is the time to do it.
Hold on, Chief. I wish on those charts it would have said proposal for Station 11. You've got Station 11 on there. We have people that don't know that there's not a station there. So when I read those maps and when people are going to be looking at that and they read those maps, it says Station 11. And we really need to just put on there the land for a proposed station, because now what I just seen is I seen Station 11 on Southwest 6th Street, And then proposed station, or here's another station 11 that was already where station 11 is. It's confusing. It's
Councilwoman Marquez,
confusing.
they did say proposed.
Right. No. Look
Yeah,
on
they
the
did.
map. No, look on the map and it says station 11.
Ma'am,
But,
the maps,
anyway, I just want to make that clear. At Southwest 6 and Fairlawn, there is no station there. There
no,
is
the maps do say, ma'am, proposed station. It doesn't say any number. And on the one in North Topeka area, it says proposed station, North Topeka Road. There is nothing there signifying. As you can see on that map with the arrows, it says proposed station North Topeka and proposed station Northwest 6th Street.
okay. And what does that say?
Proposed station right there, Northwest 6th Street.
There was just a map that I just seen that said station 11, and maybe I didn't see that clearly because these are small, but I thought it was out West 6. So if I'm correct, I apologize, but I want to make sure that people know that there's no station out there. We just own the property. Thank you.
Chief, can you, I've got a little confused. Are these just drive time analysis proposals and then there's station coverage? Is that two different items we're talking about here?
The drive time analysis is our goal to be able to respond with the first apparatus to anywhere in the city of Topeka within 5 minutes and 30 seconds. The national goal is 4 minutes, which we're not going to get unless we build about another 5 stations. So, and hire the people, but this was for what we have right now in the city. We relocate stations to have better coverages in the areas that we currently do not meet that 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, so then the fire station coverage maps, how's that differ or how's that how do they marry each other?
Ma'am,
I think you're talking about ones that have been presented already where they have their designated territories, right?
oh, okay.
I'm talking
Yeah,
about the fire station coverage, and then there's the drive time analysis. So are these supposed to go together? How do
They're
these-
they're the same, ma'am. The first one, the current coverage, we have holes in certain parts of the district that they serve, being North Topeka and North Oakland. And we're trying to better serve that part of the community by making a recommendation that we could build a station, propose a station up in North Topeka, which would fulfill that. We are just relocating our assets.
Okay, but then what am I supposed to do with this information with the drive time analysis? Are we not thinking about any of these proposals?
Ma'am, which other proposals, are we looking at the ones given to you like a couple of years ago?
No, the ones you just went through, like proposed fire station on North Topeka Boulevard, proposed fire station, North Topeka Boulevard, 6th Street, the one that was on.
Ma'am, all that is showing you if we leave things the way we are, we're going to have holes. If we propose to build a station on North Topeka, then the drive times are still going to be 5 minutes and 30 seconds, but we're going to be able to reach those parts of the community that we weren't reaching with the original location of the station.
So really, I don't even need to pay attention to this drive time analysis.
Well, it was done through GIS.
The drive time analysis shows you what is possible based on where our station is located and shows you what we currently have as capabilities based on our travel time for those locations. So it's showing you what's now by drive time, because a territory, they may be assigned a territory that's larger than where they can respond in 5.5 minutes based on the dimensions and locations of those particular stations. So you're going to have right now, you're going to have areas that stations are assigned that they can't get to in 5.5 minutes. And so then what we do is we show what they can cover now, and then we're showing you what, if you put a station in a proposed area, what it would cover if that existed.
Okay.
I just,
Sullivan.
sorry, I just want to interject something really quick. So in just the past couple of days, we've gotten these maps, and now you're talking about Oakland and totally redoing that station. Then you're talking about getting rid of 1 and 11, putting a new one out, getting the one over here in Northwest 6th Street or whatever. Now you have all this information, everything's being floated around, all kinds of things are being thrown at us. And I think that we need to slow down. I really do. I think not only as a council person where the majority of this is happening in my district, I think for the citizens that are on board here, I also agree with what some others have been saying, that we should have more fire representation on here. And I think it's just, it's like, I can feel this sense in tonight's meeting that it feels to me like things are really trying to be rushed through. And I do not agree with that at all.
When are we supposed to talk about it, Councilwoman? This is what we're here to do tonight, is talk about it. How can I talk about it if I don't present it?
I'm not saying don't present it. I'm saying don't try to ram it through so quick. That's what I'm saying. That is exactly.
We're not trying to ram anything through.
We already know that there will not be any kind of hazard study that will be completed by the time this commission is done. So I'm sure that there are things that I don't know, but you're coming into District 2 wanting to do all of this reshuffling. And it's not that we don't talk about it. I never said not talk about it. I'm saying we need to slow it down a bit here.
There's no decision that's going to be made tonight. So we're not trying to rush anything. We're starting a conversation. And if it needs to go to further meetings, then we'll go to further meetings to have that conversation. So it's simply a start. I'm sorry if you feel like it's rushed, but we're trying to present information and then get, in a way, some of the same comments you just said as a concern. And this goes further as to showing the ideas that we have related to what could make it better as far as our response time. And it seems odd to move a station 4 blocks down the road to see what it does. And that's what we were trying to articulate tonight, is that there are changes that you can make that actually make a difference in the response times to our community. And the only ones that we've been even seriously talking about in the first phase is the potential for a station out at Southwest 6th and Fairlawn, and the potential that was part of the Wayne study, which is to move a station up on North Topeka. The others were simply ideas that the chief has studied and analyzed that he feels someday might want to be considered. But these are $8 to $10 million appropriations when you're talking about building a fire station. So the idea of even doing one station in the next 3 to 5 years is probably the best that we can do. So these
Okay, we have a
Well, I
was-
long-term.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan, I called on him and then before Councilman Alcala spoke. So Mr. Sullivan and then Mr. King.
So I appreciate the proposals. I'm sure we all understand what's going on and what Mr. King is trying to do. However, I've seen the appropriation for Station 11 to move out to 6th Street. Is that what I understand?
Correct.
Am I correct in saying that? Okay. And you're only going to be able to build one station. I'm just guesstimating here. Probably one every 5 years. Would that be about correct?
Sir, the caveat right at the beginning of that was to say, if we were going to make this the first move, where the northeast and the northwest, they would both have to be done at once, so as not to take away for any period of time coverage in that area. The recommendation is to do those two particular areas at once to make sure the northeast and the northwest, there's a continuation of coverage. Totally. We'll wait till the stations are built and then move them, not do one and move and not do the other and move, because it would be too big of an impact on the community, the people that live there.
Okay. The financial ability to be able to do this, and I believe what we can all really agree, what's going to be a recessive time, is it even possible? I mean,
Actually, that's on our agenda. We will get to that later. If you want to hold those questions till then, we're going to talk about the financial cost. Is that okay? And Mr. King?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say, as one of the citizens on this board, what was presented seemed clear to me. It makes sense, other than some people saying that it might not have to all the citizens. So just wanted to put that out there. And I think some of the confusion might have come from we were sent one map, I think a day or so ago, maybe with the invite, I can't remember. And that map was labeled differently than the maps we saw in the presentation. And I think that was throwing some people off. So just a comment.
And I would accept responsibility for that, because I pushed out the map too early. GIS had not gotten us all the information, and I wanted to make sure I was sending something for at least for you to review, so as you're not coming in blind. I apologize for that. That's mine.
Thank you. So, City Manager, can I just, what we are really focused on is moving 1 to North Topeka Boulevard and 11 to 6th Street. That's really what.
Yeah, if you go back to what I proposed at one point to the governing body as an option when we were looking to buy the land, that was what I proposed. And that's what the governing body wasn't comfortable with, making that decision as far as where we would build a station. We went ahead and purchased the land because we needed to do so in order to protect that possibility, because what we've looked at is if we were going to build a new one, that is the location that needs it probably the most in the community. What became the issue was whether or not we would eliminate current 11's location. And when we started talking about that, that's when the governing body wasn't comfortable with the decision being made without further discussion. And so that's why we're at, really, in a way, why we're at where we're today, is talking at a fire commission, getting public input, and then eventually making a recommendation back to the governing body. And so that's really what comes down to is the cost that occurs. When I looked at it, and even the instructions I had was that we did not have the funding to be able to have 13 fire stations. And so I needed to pick one, and based on the analysis of the least amount of usage, number 11 was the best in that regard. Based on its usage, they had the least amount of calls in the city, and so therefore that was the one that we considered eliminating.
Okay, I would like to ask, I know Jason was on a committee before that a lot of people got involved with, and wasn't their recommendation about the same thing, to move 11, Jason, to move, so the firefighters at that meeting would be to move 1 and to move 11? Is that correct?
That was when Chief Wayne was here. And as he was leaving, then city manager, and the E-board, the local 83 E-board, and other city officials, we came to the conclusion that moving the station in North Topeka up on North Topeka Boulevard would be the best option if we had to lose a station in North Topeka to the Southwest 6th and Fairlawn location.
Okay. Okay, can we go on to then, I think we're going to talk about the repairs and stuff, city manager?
I think Chris Sullivan had a question.
Oh, Mr. Sullivan?
From what I understand, it appears to me that the response time, if you move Station 11 out on 6th and you build a new one on Northern Boulevard, it puts me out of the response time, the correct response time. Is that correct, Mr. Duke?
Sir, we put 5:30 at what our goal is, to have it throughout the city, 5-minute and 30-second response capability. And actually, it was the individual who was reviewing that knew that you lived on that particular street. We brought it up. And because 5:30, if we had made it 5:35, you would have made the response time. It was a hair. But just using the GIS and their calculations and everything, we asked them to keep it even at 5:30. But you're basically 5 minutes and 35 seconds out of that. You're 5 seconds out.
And that was from the 6th Street location, correct?
That would have been from the new North Topeka Boulevard station. It had better access to get to your location quicker than the one on the 6th Northwest 6th Street.
Okay, thank you.
And can I ask what is his position? Like, Mr. Sullivan, where do you live?
Northwest 18th Street.
18th Street. Okay. Okay, city manager.
Thank you. I'm just going to go through some of the typical issues that we're seeing that need to be done in our current fire stations. And this is kind of a mixed issue. This is items that were turned in by the fire department and items that facility operations has noted. Like Station 1 needs windows replaced, fascia, soffits. They have an old panel for electric that should probably be replaced. Station 2 has an overhead closer for their south bay door, needs to be replaced. Countertops. 3 needs 2 cooling units replaced. 4 needs new windows, new compressor, new front door, storm door. So 6 needs, has some moisture in the basement, needs a new back door and storm door. 7 needs a new driveway and gutters replaced. A new roof. 8 needs new kitchen countertops. 9, parking's inadequate, needs a water heater. And so that's really, an example of what we're doing. And the city has set aside money through the council approved what we call a FIRM program, which is facility improvement renovation. I'm trying to remember the acronym now. But anyway, bottom line is facilities improvements in all of our facilities across the city. And we utilize that funding on an annual basis to do these types of repairs. Also included on that is the intent that we would do a major renovation every 2 to 3 years on one of the fire stations. We recently did Station 3, and there are others that are in the queue that need to be done for major renovations. And so that FIRM money would also be utilized for a major renovation, save up a little bit over a couple years and then do a major renovation. So those are the types of things, even though we're talking about a new fire station, we do have work that needs to be done in our current stations. And so we're trying to identify it. We've worked with the department and the firefighters to identify, trying to streamline their notification to us. They're in the stations every day and making sure that we understand. I haven't been out to many of the stations lately, just with everything that's been going on, but I get out there and I want to know what those things are, and hopefully we'll be able to make those repairs. So anybody have any questions?
Does that mean those repairs, all that you just mentioned, will be repaired in 1 year?
Not likely.
Well, then by the time you repair like ones and then you start on 2, then isn't 1 going to need something again? And by that time, 9 is going to be terrible.
Well, that's the problem when you own 12 buildings. It's and that's just 12 buildings plus you've got everything else. It's expensive, and figuring out how to allocate our funding, that's a challenge every year. So we do the best we can to make those repairs, identify them, and make them as quickly as we can.
If you got them all repaired, all of them done, needing nothing, and started from there, because it sounds like nothing was done for years. And then now they're in such disrepair that we need to get them back up before they go further down.
Right, that's what we're working on. Trying to make sure that we don't lose them.
Okay, Mr. Sullivan.
I have done some research and we're looking at a financial issue all said and done in my eyes. And I'm pretty sure everybody can pretty well agree with that. Nurse navigation. Has anybody done any research into that?
On what?
Nurse navigation.
What is that?
It's a system. I really suggest everybody takes a look into it. It's a system used to appropriate the correct response to situations, whether it be AMR, fire station, whatever it be, or the fire department, whatever it be, instead of like AMR and the fire station responding. So basically, if it's just AMR that needs to respond, then AMR would respond, not a fire truck as well. That would save wear and tear on a fire vehicle or on a fire truck, especially with the roads we're dealing with at the moment. I really think that's something that needs to be looked at to save money to help put back into the fire stations as well.
Well, and I think, Chris,
Thank
wasn't that, it was talked about at last meeting. It was a presentation. There was a small section on nurse navigation.
Could we make a comment on that, please? For the
Sure.
group? Hold on a second. EMS Chief Siegel, he's well up on this. That was brought up in a meeting we were at just this week. I'll let him speak about that. He's well versed on it.
Yeah, so as it was spoken to there, the nurse navigation lines are just that experimental side of it. I don't want to take too much time because I think that the topic that we want to stay on focus there, that's something that's into the big picture, and part of it there are contractual issues that are still being worked out on that. So it's not just we're going to be able to do that tomorrow, because it's not a turnkey deal. And the other thing, the major comment on that one, that is a significant impact to what the citizens expect right now. Because up on that call 911, they've got to be educated that might, and so there are some complicating factors with that. It can definitely be part of the conversation going forward, which is why it was brought up. But there are several pieces in order to get all that even remotely on board there, that it's not turnkey that quick. So that's all Chief wanted me just to speak to that on that part.
Thank you.
And Mr. Sullivan, we have had conversations, obviously, been in conversations at meetings with AMR, and they said that it's in its infancy right now because they've got so much work to do. And I know Chief Siegel was more knowledge about it than me. I was in a meeting for 15 minutes and they mentioned it. So, but we are trying to work with our partners any way we can, make our responses better for the citizens and for the people that make the responses.
So should we, the operating budget of one station is how much, City Manager?
Chief was pulling those numbers.
Yes, looking at it and talking to our business manager, we went through everything on this. So I have the numbers right here, the equipment and everything. You're looking at about $1.2 million for a piece of apparatus, the station, the firefighters, all the equipment, the salaries for the firefighters. Even looking at the cost of a new piece of apparatus, we amortized it out over a 10-year flat line, and that was like $72,000. But you're looking at about $1.2 million for a manned fire station with the equipment and the people, and that's
Annually.
all. That's everything.
Annually. So how much to actually build it?
Sorry, ma'am, you cut out.
Oh, how much to actually build it?
Oh, the station?
Do we know that?
Well, obviously, it's changed over the years. There was funds set aside for the station at Northwest, out west at 6th Street there. It depends what you're really wanting, but I'm recommending that we go to at least a 3-bay station anytime we build anywhere. Then that way we can prepare for expansion, especially if we're going to utilize alternative vehicles, which we are recommending that to utilize alternative vehicles to respond to those non-emergency calls. But we could still respond if someone dials in their eyes a 911 call. We won't send out a big fire truck. AMR won't respond, but we could respond in a vehicle to assist the member of the public.
Wasn't the number, you didn't give the number, Chief.
Oh, sorry. So you're looking anywhere between 4 and 6, depending on what you want to do, because we're looking at making the station safe for both the firefighters that work in there and for the citizens, maybe turn it into some sort of facility if we had these power surges where we lose power. It could be a warming station for some people in the community. We're looking at where we could run an alternative vehicle out of there. We're looking at, we'll have backup generators and everything. It would have all the modern aspects that we would need to run a professional fire department.
Sandra,
So-
when we looked at
Yes.
Station 13 at 6th and Fairlawn, and I think it's been about 5 years, I want to say that the number was 4.5 million.
I think we're really more or less looking at about 8, given what Jason said. I think it's probably closer to 8 now. That appropriation is gone, that Jason mentioned. But I think it's probably closer to 8 is what we would plan for with all the activities that would be required there. And then on top of that, if you did do that as an additional station, we would have whatever the cost of the apparatus is on top of that to fill out. So if it was one truck or one engine or a truck and an engine or whatever, and you kept the other stations, then you would have that. Otherwise, you would be able to move those pieces of equipment, those apparatuses over to the new location. So just kind of depends.
Right. So to build 2 new stations, then you're looking at 16 million and $1.2 annually for firefighters.
Right,
But that's not the apparatus isn't involved in that,
right.
right?
We're going to cover those in a little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we're up to 16 million for 2 stations.
Are we at the point yet where we can talk about when you're talking about going from 2 stations in North Topeka to 1 new station in North Topeka, what you're looking at in the way of numbers when both stations are fully staffed and numbers that 1 station would have in the way of firefighters? Are we at that point in the discussion?
I think it's pertinent, yes. Chief, you were looking at two apparatuses in the North Topeka station, correct?
Correct.
And then you would
Correct.
have 1 apparatus plus the rescue equipment in
How many apparatus?
Fairlawn Station?
Yes, sir. That was the anticipation at this point in time, is to have 2 pieces of apparatus at the North Topeka Boulevard station that could respond southeast or west, north, obviously.
And how many firefighters would that
It,
be?
it would be, there would be assignment of 4 to each piece of apparatus
So that's 8?
No, times 3.
over 3 shifts,
Over
yes.
3 shifts. But I mean, 1 shift, tell me how many man for 1 shift
8.
Yeah, with both vehicles, 8.
for 1 shift, and that would be with 1 new station. Currently, for 1 and for 11, let's talk 1 first. If it is fully staffed for 1 shift, how many firefighters is that at
4.
1? And 1 on 11, if the shift is fully staffed, how many is that?
With 2 pieces of apparatus that in there currently, that is 8 per shift.
So sorry, slowing the math here. If you're looking at your vision of wanting to do away with 1 and 11, there would be, if everything was the way it was supposed to be, and citizens were protected the way that they deserve and they're supposed to be, it would be 12 altogether covering on a shift, covering that part of North Topeka. But once we go down to the dream of wanting one new station, then that would go down to 8. Is that correct, on a shift? So you'd be losing firefighters. Is that correct?
We wouldn't be losing any, ma'am. We would be just reallocating, that we would have the same number of firefighters. If I'm understanding your question correctly.
You got the piece that's missing that you didn't get, Councilwoman, is that one of those apparatuses would move to Southwest 6th and Fairlawn. And so you have 3 between 1 and 11. You have 3 different sets of apparatuses, 4 firefighters per apparatus. One of those moves to Southwest 6th and Fairlawn, 2 move to the new station on North Topeka Boulevard. So you stay the same with the number of firefighters.
I'm talking,
So
go ahead, Sandra.
you're really not doing away, you're moving, right? You're like picking up number 1 and moving it down the street, and you're picking up 11 and moving it to 6. The people
Right.
and the apparatuses with them.
Yeah, I see where she's going though, and that in North Topeka, there would be 1 apparatus and 4 firefighters left, right? Is that where you're going, Christina? Yeah, so that is accurate. However, when you look at the maps, 6th, the proposed station on 6th Street would shift and cover, part of their territory would include the more western part of your district. So they would be responding up 75 and covering over on Lower Silver Lake Road and into those houses in that area.
Assuming that they can get through, they would be going through the interstate, correct? Or 470?
Correct.
Assuming that all things are perfect on that drive out there and there wouldn't be any kind of traffic backup or anything.
Right, and you're right, and that's depending on the day and time of day, et cetera. Yes, there is that issue that can adjust the response time.
And so if we're looking at a lot of heavy industry out there, which I'm assuming is what you're referring to, would be dealing with, any fire, explosion, anything of that nature, then that could actually decrease if there is some kind of issue with the traffic flow. It could
slow it slightly.
well, could slow it down in a really bad situation where it was needed as a quicker response time.
The other thing that we really don't have for you is that when you look at the number of calls for that area, the call volume is very low in that area on the west side of your district. Very, very low. And there are not likely going to be that many calls that occur in that area comparatively to where they will respond mostly to the south of that station, more than likely.
Thank you.
Okay, are we finished with number 2?
Okay, if you don't want to talk about stations any further, and we can move on to number 3, which is apparatus needs and costs.
Okay.
And I know the governing body received the cost plan, the replacement plan for apparatus. And I did forward it out today to the civilian members of this committee. Mr. Sullivan, did you receive that?
At about 4 o'clock today.
Yes. And I sent that, like I said, this went out to the governing body. And what we're looking at for a vehicle replacement plan, we're trying to get it to where we're even keeled in the replacement and the purchasing, and when something moves from frontline to reserve status. We try to maintain this through NFPA 1901. And I know you can read that on the side of the spreadsheet, what it states there about apparatus and its longevity and when we should consider replacing them and when they're not serviceable anymore. Definitely, we're looking at a 10 to 12 year plan for each piece of apparatus. That's for us and the usage of the apparatus. That's a good number, changing from 10 to 12 years. 10 to 12 years, we'd replace it, or if the mileage on the apparatus exceeds 100,000 miles. NFPA says that you should take apparatus out of service completely if it's 15 years of age or more. Sir? Mr. Sullivan?
Are there ambulances on that list?
No, sir, we don't have any ambulances.
I understand that,
Right.
but through all these meetings and information gathering and whatnot, it sure seems like that's the direction that is being pushed.
The direction that we're trying to do, start off with, is having ALS service throughout the community, and that at this point in time does not include a transport unit. We're looking at alternative vehicles, being such like SUVs, to be able to respond to those types of calls, that low acuity calls.
But you said
Sorry,
to
but
start-
sorry.
to start with is what you're saying with.
Yeah, we have to have a vision. We do have to have a vision, and our vision is to get ALS service throughout the community through our firefighters and our the apparatus that we have. And that's not a overnight task. That's something we have to build on, work on.
I understand that. Through my research, we have AMR at no cost to the city right at the moment. So I'm not sure that even the fire stations are being kept fully staffed. So I'm not sure how we're going to add on to that as well, with all the financial responsibility that we're tossing into the pot already.
Well, like I said, sir, the Topeka, the citizens of Topeka deserve better. We have the firefighters who are trained in the EMS aspect of it, and they can get on the scene quicker than a AMR unit with their current coverage in Shawnee County. And I see you're shaking your head, but right now we get there over 90% of the times faster than they do. Because we have the numbers and the locations, they use system status management. We utilize, we're static, we're in the community, and we can get there, like I said, that we have the numbers to show over 90% of the time faster. We're there first before AMR is. And that's not anything on them. It's just, I feel if we're there first, we should be able to deliver ALS capabilities of treatment there and then before waiting on AMR to get there. And we are doing this today. We have 3 pieces of apparatus that supply ALS capabilities, and we can do everything but transport the patient.
Aaron, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Chief Duke said. On the street, Mr. Sullivan, we wait day in and day out for periods of time for an ambulance to transport a patient. So I do think it's important for the department and the city to start looking at BLS transport as a place to start. It will certainly benefit the citizens of the city. That's just what I wanted to add, Sandra.
Thank you. So
And also, sorry, but Mr. Sullivan, you talked about we don't pay anything. The AMR is subsidized by $300,000 by the Shawnee County taxpayers, both county and city. Our taxes and the county taxes go towards giving them a subsidy of $300,000.
move along.
And that does not include what they recoup from health insurance and so forth. They are a private company. They do a pretty good job, but they are into for profit.
So
And
does
that's just an honest statement.
Okay, does anyone have any concern about the replacement cycle? What Chief Duke just said, every 10 to 12 years or 100,000 miles? Does anybody have any issue with that? Okay.
The only thing Chief, you didn't give what it costs for a truck, an engine, and an aerial. Did you get those numbers? Just wanted people to understand the cost that's involved with each of those pieces.
Yes, we do have those costs. It currently, and we look at adding 3% every year just for inflation. But we're up in the upper 700s to low 800s for an engine. A truck is pretty close to that. It doesn't have the pump on it and everything. It may be a little bit lower. And then an aerial, the newer aerials that we are required to purchase through NFPA standards with equipment and everything. But this is just turn it on and go, and you've got everything, the SCBA's, everything. You're looking at about 1.1 to 1.2 million on an aerial. We did just get one this past year, and it's been working really well. But like I say, the reserve aerial, the next newest aerial is got a lot of miles on it. We have 2 aerials in the city, one at Station 8. It was replaced in 2020, and we do have one at Station 5. And I'm just going to look at the figures on it. If I can just pull it up here. Our reserve fleet, we have an aerial that's got 72,210 miles, and it's a 2007. So our equipment's old, getting old, should I say. We are trying to streamline this replacement. We bought 7 pieces of apparatus in 2011. That's all before our times. They obviously need it replaced, and the city went out on a limb and spent all that money on 7 pieces of equipment. And now we're trying to tie it into our flow of 10-year to 12-year replacement or the mileage. So yeah, they're expensive, and we try to care for them as best as we can, but they're necessary.
So in the next 5 years, what are we looking at? What are we going to need?
Looking at this replacement schedule, most of them that we're looking to replace are the 2011s. We're looking at over the next couple of years, 2 engines, 2 trucks, and then an aerial in 2026, I think it is. 26, 25.
So that's about 4 million?
Yes, and that's usually, we order this year, we don't get it almost next year.
Right. Okay.
I would just, this is not a perfect world by any means, and we know that we're probably going to run into a recession somewhere. So I'm just saying, fix up the stations, buy the new apparatus that you need, look into some more progressive ways of dealing with calls instead of all these plans that I know we're just putting out there and discussing, but I'm discussing back, all these new stations being built. Focus on putting the money into the equipment. Chief, I remember when you took me on the review of all of the stations, right when I first got into office, and just the equipment that the guys and gals wear themselves, and how much is needed there, how much basic things are just needed. And here we are. I understand response time and all of this, but we're talking about, possibly just for 2 stations, 16 million, when we could be putting it into trucks and updates in how the guys have to go and fight the fires and the all the gear that they put on. To me, that makes more sense. And I just want to interject as well, is that we forgot to say the impact on Northwest Lyman Road with the trains and how those trains usually run every 30 minutes. And while we're saying there's not many calls in this area that you're talking about of North Topeka, this is heavy industry. And it only takes one. It only takes one really tragic accident to make us all wish that we would have kept that station there at 11 where it should stay. Thank you.
Councilmember Ortiz, can you, how long has this station been talked about on 6th Street? Hadn't that been going on for years? It was going on 4 or 5 years ago at least. So they've been talking about, because didn't they figure one time there was a study done that this area lacking?
Yes,
that
there
right?
is. Yes, there is a study done that shows that that location needs to be there because there's not a station in District 9. And since there's not a station in District 9, then that pulls away from District 2, that pulls away from District 3, pulls away from 8, it pulls away from other parts of the city.
Right. Right.
And I'm sure Aaron can talk about that more, but yeah, that's how this has come about. The council didn't put any money into that station, and therefore we lost the land that was given to us because of the money issues. But I just want to see us put a plan together and then see where we want to go from there. But I will say that I don't think we need to move Station 6 several blocks. We're not hitting our response time. Our response time is 4 minutes. We're not hitting it. And if you go out west, some of those people are 8 minutes because we don't have a station in District 9. And Aaron or Jason can talk about that. Thank you.
So I think this is the first step. I mean, it would be awesome to do all this. And I'm with Christina. I'm like, get the dang money, fix the fire stations up. I don't care if you have to get a loan from somebody, get them all fixed up, get the firemen taken care of, build the buildings and start from there instead of keep trying to dig ourselves out of this hole every year and we never get there. I mean, that's easy for me to say because I don't know where you get the money from, but.
And Sandra, if I may, let's remember, we don't want to pour any money in renovating it if we're not going to use it, you know.
True.
We have to make sure we get our monies out of what we renovate. And but anyway, thank you.
So how much does it cost per firefighter? Let's go down to the personnel costs. So you said 1.3 million per station for how many firefighters? 12? You're muted.
Sorry.
You're muted.
Got it. That's for, one apparatus, 4 firefighters per shift for a total of 12 individuals and all the gear that they need. And so that's that 1.3 number. I don't know if Chief drilled down anymore on what the cost is if you wanted to say all the gear up for a firefighter or not. Well, really what we're focused on more is just talking about where we're at with staffing. I think Chief Duke might be frozen. So I'll keep talking. That, one of the things that we're looking at, he fell off, he'll have to get back on. The staffing level right now, we have an academy that just graduated. We had 7 individuals in it. I think we're down at, I think it's 11 or 12 total vacancies. I haven't seen the latest report, but it should be right in that neighborhood because we're trying to schedule another academy for 10 individuals for March. And if we can get that And then another one by the end of the year, we'll be able to fill all of our slots, depending on the number of retirements we have in June. So if everything works right, the money's been set in the budget. We're no longer doing vacancy credits
Good.
to cover budget shortfalls. We were able to make the changes in the budget so both police and fire could be fully staffed once they were able to get people through the academies. And then we'll keep it at that level and move it forward. So staffing levels right now, we're in the best shape we've been in a while. At least that's my perception. I guess I'd ask Aaron or Jason if they feel like we're headed the right direction. If I don't know, maybe they know from their peers whether we're going to have a large group of retirements coming this year or not. That might prohibit us from being able to get where we're thinking we're getting to, but I don't know that. They might be know that better. I don't know. Aaron, can you talk to that a little bit?
I'd say we're headed in the right direction. I wouldn't go as far to say as we're in the best spot we've been in for a while. I'm not with these 7 out here. I want to say we're somewhere around 11 or 12 down still. I think we're anticipating 4 more vacancies at the end of March, and then some additional ones in June, most likely. But I don't have definitive numbers yet. It's still a little early yet for people to declare.
Sure. And when I look at the reports, I get a daily report on staffing on where we're at right now. Most of those reports are saying that there are 3 to 4 vacancies in each shift. And so that's why I think we're at the 10 or 11 range right now, which if we're able to get a good class of 8 to 10 in the next round, it's going to set us up to then that final class of the year, really filling every vacancy if everything goes right. So.
Great. So what's the recruitment look like?
Well, I don't know, Chief Duke, are you back available? I see a name, but I don't know if he's available. But the discussions that I've had with him, that the individuals that are applying were working, we did make the decision to lower the start age from 21 to 20. So starting this year, a person that's 20 years old can go ahead and apply for the department, which is what we wanted to do in order to be able to capture those individuals that are getting out of the community college, that are going to the fire schools, and make sure and capture them and not be one of those locations they couldn't go. And so we've done that, and we have had a little bit of trouble. We had, for example, 10 individuals that were signed up to join the last academy, and then right at the end, 3 of them were not able to meet the qualifications. We have eyed 10 individuals for starting in March, and Chief mentioned today that we've lost 2 of those potential recruits for various reasons. So it is challenging. The job's demanding, and getting qualified to be able to do it. Sometimes we lose a few people. Now, that doesn't mean that those individuals don't, we keep, there's a possibility they come back for the next class. It's just they didn't get all the qualifications by the time the class that they were supposed to enter happened. So, Chief, you want to add anything on that recruitment and the future?
Yeah, sorry about that. We lost our connection here and couldn't even hear or see anybody. I'm on my phone now. I still can't get on through the internet of my computer. But yes, we have had issues like everybody else throughout the country. Public safety is not a big attraction for young people today. We don't know why, but everybody sitting in this room with me all remember 500, 700, 1,000 people applying for 15, 20 jobs here and around the region around us. Having the standards set forth by the Board of EMS, firefighter 1, firefighter 2. I mean, the people have to come in with some sort of credentialing to be acceptable employees. We're even looking to working with the school districts around us, TCALC. They had a program that didn't go too far the last couple of years, but we want to rejuvenate it and hopefully have someone represent us there and have these young people where we can go give them scholarships, do whatever we need to do, especially with the minority students in and around the school districts who may not be aware of what we have to offer to them for a career. So it's like selling ourselves, having a positive rapport with the public and with the schools and the students there to try to attract them towards a safe career. And
So
we are
what's
not,
the age cap? What's the age cap? So you can apply at 20, when's the cap that you're too old?
none.
Really?
There is none on there. As they have the credentials, they can apply. There are some cities put it at 30, some put it at 35, but Topeka does not.
Huh.
And we did drop the age to 20 to see if we could try to attract more people. I know I can't remember if it was Mr. Sullivan or not, even talked about 18. We haven't visited that yet because we want to take this slowly. If we make any drastic changes to our what we require someone to have or to be or their age, to make sure that we are getting good people to work for the City of Topeka Fire Department. It's a great
Well,
career.
I might have to think about that.
We will get you, Madam Chair, we will get you an application tomorrow.
I wouldn't pass any of it. Okay, what's the next thing? Well, let me ask, just broadly, would you be in favor of the moving out to North Topeka and 6th Street? More in favor of that than, what's the other option? Just building one on 6th Street and closing 11? Sylvia?
I would say keep the fire stations where they're at and build a new one.
So not move, so keep 11 where it is and not move 1.
My
Keep
suggestion,
11 where it's at and 6 where it's at. Do not move any of them and build a new station at 6th and Fairlawn where we have that.
Okay,
my suggestion would be leave
Thank you.
11, leave 1, leave Oakland where it's at, build Northwest 6. Any money that you were going to be putting into trying to build other new stations, put that into apparatus throughout the years. That would be my suggestion.
okay. Anyone else, just off top of your head?
Sure, this is David. I like the plan with the 2 new stations because at least from the presentation, it seems like it narrows down those that drive time. It meets those needs better.
Okay. Aaron, Jason,
I'll let Mr. Sullivan speak. He's had his hand up there for a bit.
okay. Chris,
I agree with Mr. King. However, it doesn't for my neighborhood. And I'm sorry to be selfish. However, I've lived in this town for a long time. I fixed up my neighborhood to keep it what it is. It may not be the nicest. However, I support my neighborhood. I support this town. It's the reason why I'm on this commission. I am for any positive feedback from any of you, Aaron, Jason, Greg Duke, Brent. Toss me some personal information. Talk to me. All I have been given this whole time is just statistics. I'm not buying it. I think new stations are going to cost a hell of a lot of money. Pardon my French. that we're not ready for. That's just my view.
Aaron?
If you left Station 11, Station 1 where they are, like Miss Ortiz and Alcala suggested, built a new station at 6th and Fairlawn, you would have to purchase one additional company and 12 additional employees to staff that company. And that would allow the response times to remain the same in North Topeka, but it would increase the response time into that northwest area of the city. So, Mr. Sullivan, your place should be taken care of, and then it better serve some of the citizens on the south side of the river as well.
So what did you say, Aaron? So build the new one and then do what with the 11 and one?
If you left 11s and 1s and built a new one, you would have to purchase one additional apparatus, which would be an engine company, and 12 personnel to staff that across the 3 shifts. That would keep you from building 2 stations simultaneously, which we would need to do to prevent any lack of coverage for North Topeka. If we move somebody out of North Topeka, it's going to cause a safety concern from me for the citizens and for the firefighters, both. Does it make sense what I said, Sandra?
Yes. Jason, you want to add?
I don't think I understood that in totality. Sorry, I didn't. I understood about the new apparatus that for Northwest 6, additional manpower. 1 and 11 would stay. So how would that not be meeting the needs of all that area of North Topeka? I'm missing that point. Is it because you'd be moving manpower? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I apologize if I misspoke. If you leave everything the same in North Topeka, it would continue to meet the current need in North Topeka. What you would increase would be south of the river. You would increase the coverage in the West Hills area, out by the movie theater, the Federal Home Loan Bank. That area out there is where you would have better coverage.
Because you'd be building the Northwest 6th fire station. And
Yes,
yes,
you
got it.
would build it and put one additional company out there.
And as far as where we are in, and I guess I'm asking the firefighters this question, where we are at manpower in 1 and 11, do we need to be at staffing levels better than what we have them right now to give that level of service that these areas of North Topeka need at this point? Do we need more manpower there? Are we totally up to where we need to be? I'm asking the guys because I don't know where else to get it from.
Yeah, as long as those companies are staffed, we're doing just fine. It's when we shut those companies down because of lack of staffing where we have an issue. And like I said previously, it's an issue for the citizens and it's also an issue for the firefighters. But currently we're staffing those apparatus and we're doing just fine. And we'll continue to recruit and hire, and that'll be the best thing for us.
Has there ever been a consideration of recruiting outside of the county, outside of the city limits, outside of the Shawnee County itself?
our recruitment efforts currently go outside of Topeka and Shawnee County. We go to community college, Kansas City, Kansas, Hutchinson, Johnson County. They all have fire science programs. So when guys and gals are graduating with those degrees, that was one reason that we dropped the age limit to 20, so that we can hire them straight out of college, because we were missing the mark on people that were going to college.
And I would take it that we're also trying into community, when it comes to communities of color, Mexican Americans, African Americans, Native Americans, all of that, that we're going into those communities as well, because I'm sure that this would be, young folks that would be looking for, good jobs, good benefits, et cetera. The other thing that as we talk about the building of something, a fire station on Northwest 6th Street, I would just want to make sure with keeping 11 and 1 open, that we don't take firefighters away from that area to try to staff any new fire station that we would be building, for the safety of all residents, for public health and safety, for, all these quality of life issues that we have. If we are going to do this with building a new fire station, then have enough guys and gals over there that are going to be at the new fire station, and leave 1 and 11 alone, where they are feeling that they are at a good status right now. Because I think that, again, that's important for the safety of the folks in the industry in that area.
Christine, I agree. And the good news on that part is, at the end of the day, that'll be your decision and the council's decision on how that gets staffed. So I think the commission will make a recommendation, but ultimately it will go to the council and the city manager, and you guys will set the direction. And if that's to hire the additional staff to put out there, that would be the best case scenario for us.
Yeah, and I think it's always been very cut and dried where I am on this. And I think that, having more of the guys, give their opinion on this and not feel that there would be any kind of ramifications or anything. They're the ones out there risking their lives. They should be able to speak to what it is they support as well as you as the president of the union. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. They do communicate with Jason and I and the rest of our executive board, and then that's what we communicate to you guys. Thank you.
So should the operating budget remain the same and other expenses reduced to accommodate the expense of the new fire station? Or do we keep the tax levy the same? Or what would your recommendation be? Just not a solid concrete recommendation right now, just thinking out loud. What would you think about that? Christine, is that your hand? Oh, no. Yes, Mr. King.
I would say we make our recommendation not so much focused on, well, let's spend this amount of money as opposed to this amount of money, but say, like if Aaron's plan works, we recommend 1 new building, the other 2 fully staff that second building, and have a plan going forward that gets put into the city budget for general upkeep and replacement of vehicles, that kind of thing. That part seems to me more of the city council planning the budget than us saying, yeah, go do your job. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, but it was one of the questions that they were kind of looking for what our opinion would be. They will make the final decision. They can decide something else. But it's just like, what would your opinion, what would your ideas be?
Well, my opinion would be that they would adequately fund it so that we can protect people in Topeka.
So would you be in what about the tax levy?
That's fine. I mean, that takes taxes to run a city.
So I've always been, and I have no qualms on saying we need to raise the tax levy because we need this. And I know there's staunch people that will not, but you're not going to get anywhere. You are not going to grow. You're not going to get some of these things that you need unless you do that.
Right.
So
And
I would.
we
I
have a
wouldn't
great example of that right now with roads that we're finally starting to fix, but we didn't for a really long time. And
You're right.
I mean, that's the example. So
Right.
And
Yes. City manager.
Oh, I was going to say, just so everybody understands what we're looking at when we say tax levy increase. As Chief mentioned earlier, we're looking at about 1.3 million for the staffing and equipment on an annual basis to add that new station and to staff it. Not the equipment, not the building, just the annual cost is about 1.3 million. That's a 1 mil levy increase. So if you know your taxes, it's a 1 mil increase that pretty much would cover that. We get about 1.15, 1.2 million per mil right now based on our current valuations. So it's a 1 mil increase. It's not a great deal amount of money. We haven't raised for 7 years now the mill levy. People have seen their taxes go up because their valuations have gone up, but the actual mill levy rate has stayed the same for 7 years now. And so just to understand, that's what it would take is 1 mil, or we would have to make corresponding cuts, and that would be a lot of staff, more than likely, and from somewhere else, some other department.
So what would that do with the repairs? How are we going to afford the repairs to our stations?
The repairs are coming out of our bonding money. We're bonding for that money to be able to make those repairs in the various buildings.
And how quickly?
I can't answer for sure how quickly we'll get to everything, but there is a plan now, and there hasn't been a plan. And now we're actually the second year now of this plan of providing the improvements for these buildings. So I'll know better in the next year how quickly we're making these improvements in the buildings. But I can't give you an answer how quickly we'll get to everything.
I have to get off at 7:30. I just wanted to say I would support further dialogue on the increase in the mill levy, because the bottom line is we are talking about public health and safety. So I'm for furthering that dialogue. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And the other thing that has been mentioned before is potentially doing a sales tax election, saying that we'll increase our sales tax, say 0.1 cents, and that would then be the way you'd fund it. So it's not just the mill levy. You could do a sales tax if, just so you know what the options are.
Sylvia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brent, is there any money that was set aside for Station 13? Do we have any monies earmarked for that? I thought we had some money.
We did. That was back under Colson. And so now you're looking at 5 years ago. And so that authorization is gone. So in reality, when you set the 9 million per year allocations, that fire station was in one of those years as part of that 9 million. Well, we didn't end up doing it. All we spent out of it was the cost to purchase that land. The land that we bought on Southwest 6, we used that allocation. That allocation now has expired. I can't legally build a fire station, which is why I pushed this issue when I first got here, was because that authorization was ending. And so I was feeling that we needed to move forward on that because that was a leftover from Colson not getting done. And then the decision was made, we weren't ready to do that, but we did make the decision to buy the land, and we use a portion of that allocation to buy the land. And then the rest of it, which would be over 5 million, I believe, 4.5 million, went back, and we never bonded for it.
Okay.
We never bonded for it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You bet. So public input.
Got a hand.
Oh, yes.
Public safety tax.
Yeah, that's what it would be called, likely.
Yeah.
Sales tax for public safety.
I
I
mean,
don't like sales tax.
in all reality, if you put it out in the public as a public safety tax, it's probably going to go over a little bit easier to the public because nobody likes taxes. And you know what? We already have some very high taxes. But let's get real. Everybody wants a little bit more safety for their families and whatnot.
Yeah, but people don't shop here or come here and buy things because our taxes are so dang high, our sales tax. And I just wonder if that's going to make it worse.
Well, everybody's shopping online. Look at our mall out there. It's going to shut down.
That's true.
Nobody come into box stores anymore. That's the thing of the past, fortunately.
Mhm. Anything else, or do we want to go on to the public input?
Well, I think, yeah, I didn't know if there's any other comments or any public that joined. I don't know that there was, but you know, this has been a good discussion. I think, you know, what we're looking at is our and maybe Sandra wants to cover, we have our next meeting. We don't have any presentations unless you request something. And it is really geared next month in March, on March 18th. It's geared towards us having a discussion and actually formulating our recommendation. Now, I heard a number of people that seem to be coalescing around a certain idea, such as keeping 1 and 11 the same and building a new 13 out on the west side. That's what we'll be looking for really in the next meeting, is us getting all together, or more or less most of us together, on that recommendation to take forward to the governing body. And then anything else that, you know, relates to the ALS service, any other items that we've discussed from the beginning to now, and really going through that and figuring out what recommendations we feel comfortable with making back to them related to, especially the stations, but anything else related to the service level that we want to see.
So can you make a list of everything that we will,
Yes,
that we need to make recommendations and get those out to everybody?
yes, I will do that. It's similar to the questions we've been asking, and I'll just formulate them in that way.
Okay.
And put them out there so that we can make decisions on and have a discussion about it.
And then if we don't get finished on the 18th, if everyone could hold March 25th as a carryover discussion date,
Right.
so the city manager can get the report to the governing body on April 1st, 6th.
Yeah, but I have to have it in the packet by the 1st at the latest.
Okay.
So that's the latest that I would that I have to be able to submit it. So if we met on the 25th, and if we needed to meet on the 25th, that would still give me time to actually get it in by the, you know, right after that, and have it in by the 1st. So it was in their packet to read over the weekend.
So if everyone can look at the questions, maybe ask any questions that we haven't gotten information on prior to the 18th, so we don't have to hash through all the question answers again. So we can look at our recommendations. But also, we had down that we were going to do public input. I don't feel as a commission it's our place to listen to public input. I think that should be up to the governing body. I think we make our recommendation, then they take the recommendation of any public input and they put it together and decide what to do. I'm not sure what we can do with the public input besides say, oh, this is the public input we got. Does any city manager?
Yeah, and I think what I would say is any citizen that might be watching right now or watch the recording, they can always send a message to city manager at topeka.org and provide that input to me, and I'll take that information and forward it out to you. If you get someone from the community that wants to make a comment, they can just send it to city manager at topeka.org, and I'll take that information and forward it out, you know, just for their comments that they may have.
And then if the governing body wants to listen or set another date to for public input, they can do that,
Right.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions, discussions before next week when we start putting it together? We've had a lot of good information, but I think if you get those questions out so we can, start thinking about them, not be cold going into the next meeting, we could get more accomplished.
Yeah, I'll try and get those out next week. We have them. It's just pulling them all back together into one document to send to everybody. So we'll try and get that out next week. So you'll have 3
Okay.
weeks to think about it and so forth.
And Luann, thank you for all you do for the commission. Appreciate it. Anything else tonight?
Thank you.
All
Great
right.
discussion.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.
Good night.
Bye.